Well, we got our first runs in, and I'm content that we found our baseline. And right now, the baseline we're going to work off of is a 10:04. Now, I know we could have gone a little bit quicker if we had just kept beating on it, but I'm content. The 10:04 in the 8th mile is a good baseline. But now we have to start really tightening in on what this project is going to be, because, okay, the point of the baseline passes the other night was to see what this thing is going to run exactly the way we picked it up off of Facebook Marketplace. So in other words, we only did what was absolutely necessary to get the car to the track and just make runs. And that's all we did to it. So, and okay, we're going to cover some details in a couple of minutes because there were a lot of questions brought up. So, but anyway, at this point now, we know what our baseline is with what we picked up. And the goal ultimately is to go $13.99 in the quarter with this Jeep. So, defining where we're going to go with it from this point. Now, here's how I envision this thing, right? I want it to remain as completely visually stock and as completely drivable as like a daily driver type of thing as possible. So gutting things, and I mean like really gutting things, drilling holes and all the other stuff, that's out of the question here. We're going to maintain a completely drivable, drive it to the track, even if the track is 300 miles away, drive it there in comfort and, you know, gas mileage and all of the things that we need from a regular vehicle, not a race car. And so that's important because a lot of you guys are like, well, rip this out, rip that out, pull. No. We're going to go very carefully with this. I'm going to talk about weight loss in a minute. But that's the goal, okay? Keep this thing as visually stock and as daily driver usable as possible. And so certain modifications don't really fit. And well, we'll get to all of that. So as you know, the biggest problem we had the other night was traction, because it would bite out of the hole and then it would just start spinning the tires all the way through first. And then second gear, it would bark them again. But mostly we were losing ET just from the car spinning the tire. So we have to work on this. Now the first thing is that it's an open rear. That's an 8 1/4 Chrysler. It's not the Dana 30, it's an 8 1/4 Chrysler. Now, link and locker. Okay, obviously that would be the cheapest, easiest way to go. Just weld the spider gears, call it a day, right? But that makes this thing really not drivable in like regular weather. So, you know, you take it out and it starts raining. Well, now you've got issues. And I want to be able to throw the keys to this thing to anybody and they can drive it anywhere and never give it a second thought. So link and locker is out of the question. Same thing with all of the aftermarket lockers. There's a lot of cheap lockers out there, you know, basically spider gear eliminators, but same situation. You can't just throw the keys to this thing anybody and say, here, drive it anywhere, anytime, and don't give it a second thought. So those two cheap options are off the table. So the only thing left is a sure grip unit. So we're going to find a sure grip unit for this. But, and I'll get to this at the end of the video, it's not just a simple matter of ordering a sure grip for it and sticking it in, because there are budget constraints. I'm going to talk about the budget constraints, I guess, at the end of the video. So at this stage, we know that we need to find a used sure grip unit. Now, they're available in Polo Parts junkyards. They're out there. This rear was used in so many different applications. This is the 27 spline axle, so it should be easy to find. Now, tires. Here was a big thing, all right? Tires. Now, here's what you have to understand about this. These are the same tires that this thing was sitting on the whole time it sat, for over 10 years. These tires are ancient and they're literally hard as a rock. Okay, now a lot of you guys were like, well, don't do a burnout with them. Well, I wasn't trying to do a burnout with them really per se. The idea was to just clean them off. And when you're trying to clean off tires that have been sitting for years, baking in the sun and just drying out, to clean them off, you got to take some rubber off of the thing. We weren't doing burnouts to get these things hot and start releasing all of the oils, because that's what happens when you do big burnouts with street tires like this. all of the oils that are in the tire start to leach out, and you won't get any traction at all. So we were doing burnouts basically just to where we were getting some tire smoke and then driving it out on the road, so just to try to get them clean. So I get the concept of street tires and burnouts. Now, another, in the comments of that video, a lot of you guys are like, drop the tire pressure, raise the tire pressure. All right, that doesn't work on all tires. It doesn't work on every situation. So on a street tire like this, and I mean a street tire like this, running them either over or under inflated will give you problems. Now, if you're talking about an off-road type of tire, an off-road type of tire has a different sidewall construction. The same way a drag tire, a drag slick, has a different type of sidewall construction. Now, with these things, if I had, now I hit the track with 35 pounds of pressure, and I could have varied it between, let's say, 30 and 40 psi and pretty much gotten the same results. But we hit it with 35 psi. Now, what happens is, if you drop the tire pressure on these things, the center doesn't want to bite. I'm sure you guys have all seen burnout marks where it's just the outside part of the tire that's, you know, leaving the mark, and like the inside is just like a shadow or it doesn't exist at all. Well, that's what happens when you drop the tire pressure on a tire with this type of sidewall construction. Now, it says if it was a drag slicks are intended to wrinkle at the bottom, and so the sidewalls are constructed in such a way that they're flexible, and it'll maintain a basically even contact patch, even at just like 5 or 6 psi. But if you tried that with a tire like this, you would end up just biting on the outside. And you can see at that tire pressure that we were at, we were getting pretty full contact across, you know, the surface of the tire. And the same thing if you overinflate a tire like this. And generally speaking, tires like this do tend to bite better slightly overinflated. Well, at that point, you run the risk of, you know, bulging out the center of it. So then you're going to get a tire that's got a heavy, thin stripe. You know, your mark is going to be a heavy, thin stripe and then lighter on the outside. These are pretty much at the tire pressure they're going to work best at. But these tires are definitely shot and they're going to go. Now, what we're going to replace them with, all right, so drag only tires out of the question, because the point of this exercise is to be able to drive it to the track, just drive it into the staging lanes and make runs. So bolting on, like, you know, slicks or drag radials or anything like that, out of the question. And budget now, at the end of this video, we're going to talk about budget. That's out of the question too, because it would price this thing, well, picking up a set of real tires would cost much more than our current budget would allow. So we're going to have to be very picky and choosy and find a cheap tire that's going to do the job. So those are the two avenues, the two main things that we got to worry about right now, is some sort of sure grip unit and some sort of tires for the back. Tires first, then the sure grip. Now, weight loss. Here's the thing with this. We do not want to gut this truck, right? So it's going to have everything in it, the whole interior and the dashboard and everything else. But we still have to get weight out of it. And the way we're going to do that is by eliminating things that aren't necessary to come along for the ride, but won't inhibit the truck's functionality. Now, I did an article almost 40 years ago now. Geez, almost 40 years ago now, in Cars Illustrated, and we were talking about weight. And in that article, I said, you know, after you've pulled out all of the heavy stuff, all of the big stuff, then your next 100 pounds, the easiest way to find the next 100 pounds is to look for 1,600 places to lose an ounce. That's what we're doing with this now. Our scaled weight on this was 3,180 pounds. And I want to get it down to 3,000 even, which means that I've got 180 pounds to pull out of this, but without gutting it and keeping it completely functional. All right, that's not easy. So we're on the mission now to find the 1,600 places to lose those ounces. I'll show you what we've pulled off of it so far. So I know it doesn't weigh a lot, but the underhood mat, that had to go. And a couple of random plastic covers, but a pound? Maybe a pound. Okay, the roof rack. Right now, the roof rack was not standard equipment on the XJ. It was only standard equipment on the higher trim models. The base XJ didn't have one, so I had no problem pulling this roof rack off. The whole roof rack assembly weighs maybe 10, 12 pounds. I got to weigh all the stuff individually to find out. The EVAP stuff. So this doesn't affect its drivability or its functionality in any way, shape, or form. It's emission control, but you know what? Here in Tennessee and in some places like Mexico, that stuff doesn't matter. This car will legally pass an inspection just the way it is here in Tennessee, except that we don't have inspections here in Tennessee, so we can get away with removing these things. Viewer discretion advised, okay? But we'll pull the EVAP stuff out. It's a couple of pounds, but it all adds up. The sway bars. Okay, so here's a pretty decent chunk of weight. The 2 bars and all of the various brackets weigh about 40 pounds or so. Getting those sway bars out, especially that front sway bar, is going to go a long way towards allowing this thing to transfer weight. Because that's one of the big things with traction now. Even after we get decent tires on it, and even after we get a sure grip in there, it's to get the most aggressive launch possible, we still need the most weight transfer possible. So we pulled those out. Back when I was, oh God, way back when I did the Mustang, the biggest single performance improvement I made with that car, it dropped nearly 3/10, was pulling the sway bars out. Pulled the sway bars out and it just unlocked all of that car's potential. Same thing with this. So the sway bars are out. And no, it does not affect this thing's handling one bit. I pulled the sway bars out. First thing I did was pull the sway bars out, and then I drove it through the area here, through some twisty roads, took it out on the highway, all normal maneuvers. You would never, ever, ever know that they were out of there. So I don't consider that to be a problematic deletion. So they're out. Saved the weight and freed up the movement of the vehicle. So that's where we're at with this thing right now. Now, we still have a computer issue. Oh, no, wait, before I go any further. All right. While this is a stripper, roll down windows and all the other stuff, which is one of the reasons we were attracted to this to begin with. While it's a stripper, it still has air conditioning. So I'm still torn with this. Because at this stage of the game, I want to lock this vehicle's, let's say, its character in place, right? So in other words, I don't want to say, yes, we'll use this now and then we'll take it out later on, okay? I don't want to do that. I want this to take its final form right now. So that when it, the essential things that are on it are going to stay on it, and that's how we're going to pursue this. Now, it was born with air conditioning. So I said, and the air conditioning works. I didn't even charge it. I did nothing. It sat for all of those years, and it never licked any Freon or anything like that. The compressor sounds great. It blows ice cold air. But I saw, AC's got to go. I got to delete the AC. Okay, so total weight on the AC is about 60 pounds. And obviously, it's in the worst place you want to have it. It's all at the front of the vehicle. Parasitic loss isn't really that big of a deal because it still has to turn an idler pulley. The way these engines were set up with that serpentine belt, they all have the ability for AC. It's designed around an AC compressor, but not all of them had it. So the ones that didn't have it have an AC delete compressor, and Dorman makes a reproduction of it. So we bought one. I actually have one. This is it right here. So I was like, yes, I'm just going to rip the AC out. We'll delete all of the AC and use this bracket, and it's good. And it stays within the spirit of the vehicle. And we're going to talk about the spirit of the vehicle in a second again, right? Just because we have to remind everybody. You got to keep reminding people. I decided to keep the AC. I decided to keep it. It's there, it works. It's a bit of a handicap, a little bit of a handicap, but I want this thing to be really drivable, and I don't want it to be there where it's 110 degrees out. We are in Tennessee, okay? I don't want it to be where it's 100, 105, whatever it is, and so I'm not going anywhere near that thing because I'm going to roast in it. No, I want to be able to drive it to the track in comfort, and if it's driving to the track is 200 miles away, 300 miles away, I want to be able to do that in this vehicle in comfort, so we're going to keep the AC. All right, so that's it for that. Now, performance-wise, the parts, and I'm gonna say, okay, every time we do an installment on this Jeep, I'm gonna include a disclaimer that says more or less, I'll paraphrase myself here, it says more or less, 100% of the stuff that goes in, on, around this Jeep has to be year, make, and model specific for a 1996 Jeep XJ. That's it, okay? No parts adapted, modified from other vehicles to fit this. So yes, I know there are better injectors, there's better this, there's different that. There's like you can interchange and swap and so on and so forth, but no. To keep it in the spirit of this build, to keep it in the spirit of this project. Wait, build and project, those words don't work for this. This is an exercise. To stay within the spirit of this exercise, 100% of anything that goes on here has to be purchased year, make, model specific for a 1996 XJ. It's a severe handicap, I know, but it's an exercise. It's what can we do? And I've said it before, I want this to be a whole Rock Auto build, where literally everything that we put on here comes from Rock Auto, year, make, model specific for a 96 XJ. And no, we're not sponsored by Rock Auto. I'm just using that because everybody can use Rock Auto. So that's where we're at with that. Budget. All right, I decided to put a $3,000 cap on the total investment to meet our goal. That's tall order, okay? That's a seriously tall order. $3,000 cap. We're not going to spend a penny more, and that's why I was saying before, as far as like the Shogun goes, yeah, I could jump online right now and order one for like $550, brand new, pop it in and go. No. We're going to find the used part. The same way anybody who's playing along at home and working on a budget, right? Because life is hard right now. You know, it's groceries and bills and everything else that are competing with your toy money. So we're going to stay within the spirit of that, okay? We're going to get a short grip, but it's going to be a used one. We're going to pull apart. We'll find one and we'll swap it in. Here's where we're at with this thing budget-wise. Our running total, right, up to this point was $1,650, and we actually had to throw another $105 at it for an alternator. So right now, our total is $1,755. So with a $3,000 cap, okay, that leaves us $1,245. We have a $1,245 budget from this point forward, and that's going to include anything and everything that goes into this: tires, sure grip. At some point, we know we're going to have to dig into the engine. We can only go so far, you know, with the basics of it. And honestly, I believe we could probably shave close to a full second off of what this car has already done, just by working with and finessing with the outside stuff. Plus, we still have computer issues that we got to work through, and that's all being handled by Dr. Art. By the way, in the comments, a lot of you guys threw some actually very interesting suggestions having to do with the electronic systems on these vehicles. And some people were like, well, why don't you just take a computer out of your other Jeeps? Unfortunately, 1996 is an orphan year. 96 is a standalone, all by itself computer system. My others, I have two 98s and a 99. They're all interchangeable, but none of it will interchange into this. So it's a handicap, but we're going to work around it. So I'm leaving that up to Dr. Art. He's going to work through that now. Actually, before the end of the day here today, I think I'm just bringing it over to his place and let him play around with it. But that's where we're at. We're going to stick to a $3,000 budget. I think we could pull probably close to a full second ET out of this thing, just finessing things and taking care of those minor, you know, well, not minor, the traction issues and some weight reduction. And then at some point, we're going to have to dig into the motor. So when we dig into the motor, we're going to be looking for reducing parasitic losses anywhere possible, basic head porting. You know, I don't know yet. I got to see how much budget is left by the time we're ready to dig into the engine. But we're going to, like I said, we're going to cap it at $3,000, and the goal is a $1,399 quarter mile. So whatever the eighth mile equivalent of that is. But we will, just to keep everything fair and honest. And like I said in the first video, I don't think quarter mile and eighth mile times are going to be really that accurate on this. Unlike most cars, most average combinations, the quarter mile and eighth mile, you can figure the increments. I think this may be a little bit different because of the small engine and the big wind that is going to push the second half of the track. So yeah, to keep things honest, we will eventually start getting this thing to quarter mile tracks. But my schedule and the closest quarter mile track, which is 100 miles away, don't always coincide. So it's not that easy to get out there and do that. But we're going to work through the big issues first, and then we'll start, we'll start focusing on the actual quarter mile times. For right now, we're going to just maintain eighth mile, easy for us. All of our local tracks are eighth mile. And I can get to them relatively easily. So for the time being, we're going to stick with the eighth mile, and then as the project progresses, we'll get it to a couple of quarter mile tracks. Once I feel confident that we're there, you know what I mean? Once we're okay, that's it. We're not going to milk anything else out of this, in that eighth. We're not going to be able to improve to 60 in or anything like that. Then that's when we'll take the venture out and hit the quarter mile tracks and go from there. But I mean, it's definitely within reach. It went a lot quicker. I mean, seriously, it went a lot quicker on the initial shakedowns, given all of its handicaps, than I expected it to. Oh, and we are going to fix the hatch. I know. It has a busted latch. Okay, so that thing just opens. I know visually it's great. Everybody got a kick out of it. You come off the clutch and the hatch goes like this. It's awesome. But it has a glass back window, and I'm afraid at some point it's going to, slam down and break the glass. So we're going to fix the hatch. I know it's character, I get it, but we have to fix the latch. All right, so that's it. Update on the vehicle, where we're at, where we're going with it, and we probably won't go out with this again for at least 2 or 3 weeks. We'll let Dr. Art do his thing with the computer and then start tuning it too, because remember, this isn't tuned at all. This is just exactly the way it came, all dead stock as far as the tune goes. So there's a lot of potential here, and it's a lot of fun, guys. I mean, there's a lot of fun in this vehicle. All right, I'll see you tomorrow.